Hi, my name is Kristin. This is Kristin Kraves Books. I often think of the summertime, especially July and August, as slower release months. Normally this time of year there aren't as many books coming out that I'm excited about, but for some reason this year is an exception. Some of my most anticipated releases of the entire year come out in July, and so I have a lot to talk about as always. So we're going to start with July 5th, and the first book is What Souls Are Made Of by Tasha Suri. And you might recognize that name because Tasha Suri is the author of The Jasmine Throne, which came out last year and is wildly popular, and it was one of my best books that I read in 2021. And actually, little sneak preview, the sequel to that does come out in August, so I'm so excited for that. But this book is part of the Remix Classics collections that I've talked about quite a few times on this channel. It's where all these popular fantasy authors are taking classic stories and remixing them into YA stories, and I have read So Many Beginnings by Bethany C. Morrow. That was a Little Woman retelling, and What Souls Are Made Of is a Wuthering Heights retelling, and I actually have an ALC of this thanks to NetGalley, so hopefully by the time I post this video I will have started listening to that. And this, I have never read Wuthering Heights. I have no intention of reading Wuthering Heights. It's just not my thing. There are classics I still want to read, but that is not one of them. But I just think, being a person in the world, I am familiar with the storyline, so I think I will have an understanding of this book, and I'm hoping it's a lot like the So Many Beginnings Little Women remix, where there are quite a few changes to the story, but the main characteristics are still there. So in this one, we are following, obviously, Catherine and Heathcliff, and they're both British Indians in this story, and they are trying to reconnect with their Indian culture together, and they run off into the moors, of course, to kind of talk about what they know about their culture, talk about their issues, connect, and obviously we get all this conflict. Heathcliff is not fitting in with society, he is struggling to fit in, he is mocked, and then Catherine's father dies. It makes their relationship even more complicated. So I trust Tasha Suri with this one, and I don't think I've ever read a Wuthering Heights retelling before, so I have high hopes. And I just love the whole idea behind all of these remixes. I have the A Clash of Steel, that is a Treasure Island remix, I believe. There's a Robin Hood one that just came out. We're getting a Great Gatsby one by Anna Marie McLemore, so I will always talk about these and put them on your radar because I think they're such great ideas. Then I have another e-arc that I have started, and I've been neglecting my Kindle lately. I need to get back to it because putting this video together reminded me how much I was enjoying this book when I was reading it, and it is Honey and Spice by Balu Babalola. And this is, if you recognize that author's name, she wrote Love and Color, which came out a couple years ago, I think, and it was a short story collection of romance stories, and I know a lot of people love that, and I do want to read that one eventually as well. But this is a standalone full-length romance novel, and I read a few chapters and I was hooked already. Kiki is a very iconic lead character. I think a lot of people are gonna love her. She is at a mostly white university, and she puts together a group of Afro-Caribbean people, and she is the host of a popular radio show where she is trying to protect people of this community from the men at this university. And she ends up publicly kissing Makai, I think that's his name, I'm trying to remember, let me look at here, Malachi, sorry. So she publicly kisses Malachi in front of everyone, and Malachi is somebody that she's publicly trashed or denounced in the past, so it kind of hurts her reputation that she's caught kissing this guy, and they decide to enter into a fake dating relationship to save their reputation, and obviously they fall in love. So that sounds fantastic. I think it'll probably be worth reading for Kiki's character alone, and I was already loving the writing. It's really raw and authentic, so looking forward to finishing that, and hopefully I will have that read before release day, and I will talk about it in my next recent reads video. Then we have a book that I've been seeing all over Bookstagram. If you are on Bookstagram, you will know a book I'm talking about, and that is Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, and this is by Gabrielle Zevin, who wrote The Storied Life of A.J. Fikry, which I have to say is my most recommended book to the people in my real life. if somebody comes to me and asks for a book recommendation, I know that that is a safe bet. Everybody that I've recommended it to or lent my copy to, I don't even have my copy right now because I lent it out to somebody at this point. And anybody that I do give it to has come back to me and told me they loved it. So there's just something so universal about that book. So I'm excited to have something new from the author, even though this looks entirely different. It is, I think it's following two characters who were friends in their childhood, and then they grew apart and they run into each other again, and they end up working together and they create this video game that becomes an overnight success. They become very rich and famous in their early 20s, and it's all about dealing with overnight success, dealing with coming into money and fame at such a young age. And it is a love story, but I did hear that it's a love story like none other, so I'm really intrigued by that one, and it's getting so many positive reviews on Bookstagram already, and I already trust this author. So, and this cover is really cool. And if you're a lover of video games like I am, I think that is a fun one to check out. Next up is the second volume of Lore Olympus, and I do have the first volume here because I just want to show you the color palette. How gorgeous is this? This is a Hades and Persephone's retelling, and Hades is in the blue tones and Persephone's in the pink, and the illustrations are just so beautiful. I'm trying to show you a good page, just so stunning. And this is a webtoon, so you can read these for free online, but I've been trying to hold back and wait till the volumes come out. So this came out, well, I got this for Christmas, so it probably came out late last year, and I read it right away in one sitting, absolutely fell in love with it. And then volume 2 comes out July 5th, and I will be getting my hands on a copy of that because it's just so beautiful. These are so well made, and I've read quite a few Hades and Persephone's retelling, but I think this one's the sweetest, the most fun to read, so highly recommend checking that out. And I know that this is a very popular webtoon, so I know a lot of you are probably excited about this as well. Next is one that I've already read, so thanks to NetGalley for an ALC of that one, and this is Acts of Violet by Margarita Monamore, and this was a 5-star prediction for me. Sadly, it ended up being a 3-star, but the audiobook experience is a 5-star experience. I think it is worth reading or listening to just for the audiobook. This is, if you recognize that author, she wrote Una Out of Order, and that came out a few years ago, and I was surprised by how much I love that, so I was excited about this one. And it follows Violet, who is like a stage magician, and she does like card magic, you know, that kind of thing. And during one of her acts 10 years ago, she disappeared and was never seen again. So on the 10-year anniversary, this person decides that they're going to put together a podcast exploring her disappearance, and we get the podcast episodes in the audiobook told with all the music and the sound effects, different voices. It's obviously full cast, and it's just so fantastic. So we get those clips from the podcast, and we also follow the storyline of Violet's sister Sasha and her complicated relationship with her sister. So she is reflecting on her life with her sister, how they were always kind of in competition with each other, and how they weren't speaking when her sister disappeared. And then she's facing scrutiny from the media because she doesn't seem as upset as she should be. And that storyline was kind of where it dragged on for me. I have to say that the ending wasn't as satisfying as I wanted it to be, but I do think it's worth listening to. I have to say, the audiobook experience, if you're looking for something that is reminiscent of Sadie but not as dark, you just know the audiobook experience, I mean, where it feels like you're listening to a podcast, I think it's worth checking out. I'm sure it'll be on Scribd, or you can get it from Libby. It's worth it. It's a fun time. You can get through it really quickly. And if you like magic, I'm not like a huge magician person. I'm not huge into those kind of tricks and things like that, but if you are into that, we get some behind the scenes of that stuff as well, so you could be intrigued by all of that. And I mean, the sister relationship is interesting, but anyways, worth listening to. I don't think it would translate as well if I had read it physically. And then the last book is the start of a new YA fantasy series, and that is The Darkening by Sonia Mara. And this takes place in a city that is in the eye of a cursed storm. So we're following a character who is the daughter of failed revolutionaries. Her mother was caught by the Queen's soldier, and she was given a choice: death by, I think, an axe, or being sent into the storm to be cursed and killed. So she chose to be freed into the storm, and we are following her daughter all these years later, and she's trying to save her father from the same fate, and she thinks that she can infiltrate the court and have the prince fall in love with her and make changes, and that is the start of the story. And I think she begins to discover that maybe there's more to the story of her mother's death than she ever realized. So that sounds fantastic. I love the whole setting of that. I don't think I've ever read anything set in the eye of a storm. That sounds very creative and unique. And then moving on to July 7th, the first book is The Society for Soulless Girls by Laura Steven. And I'm hoping that this gives me everything that I loved about Plain Bad Heroines. I absolutely love that book, but this one is probably the YA version. And I know that this is a female-female romance, a slow burn enemy to lovers is what the author has said, and I know that there is the one bed trope, so if you love that trope, look out for this one. And it follows a group of girls at a elite boarding school, as these books often do, and I think we just go back and women are being killed, girls are being killed, and they start to investigate it. Kind of a simple premise, but I just love the whole setup, and I'm excited that there's a romance in it as well. It's giving me strong Plain Bad Heroine vibes, and I'm here for it. Next is another Hades and Persephone's retelling, and one that I'm very, very excited about, and this is Her Dark Wings by Melinda Salisbury, who wrote Hold Back the Tide, which is a horror book I read last year and really surprised me. I loved it. So this one, I'm just going to read you the caption or the synopsis because it's so short. It says, the great love of Corey's life has always been her best friend Bree. Closer than sisters, their bond is unbreakable. Or so Corey believes, until Bree betrays her and Corey's world is shattered. Corey finds herself heartbroken, furious, and alone, only to discover that the underworld and Hades, Lord of the Dead, is closer than she thinks. So this, let's be honest, that sounds fantastic. This cover is one of the prettiest covers I've ever seen, and I already know I love this author, so can't wait for that one. Okay, let's move on to July 12th, and I think a lot of us are excited about this one. This is A Prayer for the Crown Shy by Becky Chambers, obviously the sequel to A Psalm for the Wild Built. So if you read that first book, I know you're excited about this, and it's a monk and robot story. That is what the series is called, and it was such a simple book. The first one just following a tea monk and a robot and the conversations that they have. It's a world where the robots became sentient and self-aware and rebelled and left the humans behind. And the tea monk kind of wanders off into the forest, and they come across a robot who is sent by the other robots to check in to see how the humans are doing. And they just bond over a fire. It's just so sweet. So I'm excited to see what adventures and conversations they get into in the sequel. Next up is one that I've talked about a few times on the channel, and this is The Romance Recipe by Ruby Barrett. This is obviously a romance, and it is a sapphic, and it is a foodie romance. So I was bound to love it, and I did. This follows Amy and Sophie. Amy owns a restaurant, and Sophie is her head chef, and there's a lot of mutual pining. Amy is unaware that Sophie has recently ended her engagement and that she's exploring her bisexuality. And so there are conversations about coming out to your parents, and just a lot of great steamy scenes as well. And there is like a cooking show in here, but it's in the background. It doesn't really play out until the last third of the book, but it was really interesting. And I just love this. If you are into restaurants or want to read about the highs and lows of running a restaurant, that's also in here, but it's a great romance, and I really, really enjoyed it, and I highly recommend it, and I hope it gets the hype that it deserves. Next up is a book that doesn't seem to have much of a plot. I feel like it's going to be all vibes, but I'm excited about it, and that is Sirens and Muses by Antonia Angris. And look at this cover. I think that this is going to draw a lot of readers. I feel like this kind of cover is what's in right now, and it's really beautiful. And it's no secret that I love books that follow artists. I'm into that, and this follows 4 artists at a prestigious art school in New York, and I think they're very insular. They're in their bubble. It's set in 2011, and these artists are very unaware of their surroundings. Like Occupy Wall Street is happening at this time. They're just so obtuse to it all, and I kind of like following pretentious artistic characters. That's kind of something I look for, and I know that won't be for everybody, but I find it fascinating. And I just think it's their secrets, their friendships, their dynamics with one another. So I'm curious to see really what the true plot of this is, because the synopsis doesn't give much away. Next is a book that I just finished listening to on audiobook, and again an ALC from NetGalley. So this is What Moves the Dead by T.Kingfisher, and I loved this on audio. The narrator is Avi Rogue, I believe that's how you say their name, and they narrated Cemetery Boys, which I loved on audio as well, and they have a few more. Lake Lore by Anna Marie Miclemore is one that I want to listen to soon. I do have a physical copy, but knowing that they narrate that one, I want to listen to that. Hell Followed With Us, I think, is a new one that just came out, so great narrator. But back to the book. This is a creepy haunted house story, very reminiscent of Mexican Gothic. So if you like that, you'll like this one. And even if you didn't like Mexican Gothic, I think you will like what T.Kingfisher did with that kind of haunted house story. But a lot of the themes are similar, just in a more condensed version, and none of that romance subplot. So I love this. T.Kingfisher is quickly becoming one of my favorite authors. I will be participating in Sarah from Brighton Bookish's Readathon at the end of July. They are hosting a T.Kingfisher Readathon for an entire week. I'm so pumped about that. I will leave a link to their video down below so you can check that out. If you already love T.Kingfisher or you want to fall in love with her stuff, please participate with us. There's a Discord and everything. So yeah, this is just a quintessential haunted house story, done so well. Some great conversations as well, and highly recommend the audiobook for that one. Next is one I feel like I've been waiting years for. This is Upgrade by Blake Crouch. Blake Crouch got me into sci-fi, and I'm so grateful for him for that. So I read Dark Matter many years ago, fell in love with it, read Recursion when it came out, I love that as well, and I'm so excited for Upgrade because it's definitely in a similar vein as those two. And we're following a character who has his genome has been engineered, and he's becoming something other than human, and he slowly comes to this realization that this is happening to him, and he realizes that he was targeted for this because of something that happened in his family's past, and he's trying to save the world from this. And then it answers questions about, can we save the world from this? Should we save the world from this? Blake Crouch always asks some interesting questions in terms of science and ethics and things like that, so I really trust him, and some early reviews for this have been so good, which makes me so excited and happy. So if you like Blake Crouch, you have to read this one. That is what I've been told, so I am excited for that. One more for July 12th, and this just looks like a fun one, and I actually have an audiobook of this one from Libro.fm, and this is August Kitco and the Mechas from Space by Alex White. And it's been such a long time since I read a fun space opera, and this just looks like a good time to me, and I'm going to read you just part of the synopsis. It says, jazz pianist Gus Kitco expected to spend his final moments on Earth playing piano at the greatest goodbye party of all time, and maybe kissing rock star Ardent Violet before the last of humanity is wiped out forever by the Vanguards, ultra-powerful robots from the dark heart of space, hell-bent on destroying humanity for reasons none can divine. But when the Vanguards arrive, the unthinkable happens. The mecha that should be killing Gus instead saves him. Suddenly, Gus's swan song becomes humanity's encore, as he is chosen to join a group of traitorous vanguards and their pilots dedicated to saving humanity. So if that does not sound like an adventure and a good time, I don't know what does. I'm tempted to drop everything and listen to that right now, because that just sounds kind of epic. Okay, July 19th. I have seen so many fellow bloggers talk about this book and get early review copies of this book, and that is Dauntless by Elisa A. Bonin, and this is a YA fantasy, and it's a sapphic romance, and it follows Siri, who is a soldier, and she is trained to fight the beasts that surround her community. And one day she runs into Sana and discovers that Sana can communicate with these beasts, and maybe that everything she's been taught is incorrect. So that just sounds great. This cover is pretty epic, and I trust my fellow bloggers on this one. I am so excited. This next one is probably on a lot of our lists, and this is The Daughter of Dr. Moreau by Sylvia Marina Garcia, which is obviously a reimagining of The Island of Dr. Moreau by H.G. Wells, which I know nothing about. So I don't know what to expect from this one at all, but I like to go into my Sylvia Marina Garcia books knowing next to nothing. That is what I always do, and I'm always so taken aback by them. So that's what I'm going to do for this one. I just wanted to put it on your radar. I know so many people are excited. The cover is gorgeous. I know I love this author's writing, and I love a good retelling, so I'm excited about that one. Then we have one that I've been seeing a lot of people reading already, and I've watched a few reading vlogs, and people's opinion seems to be mixed, but they still do enjoy the experience. So that is Just Like Home by Sarah Gailey. And this sounds like such a good time to me. It is following, our main character's name is Vera, and her mother calls her and says, you need to come home. And even though Vera has an estranged relationship with her mother, she comes home right away, and it is the home where her father has kept his dead bodies. Her father was a serial killer. And when she's there, she discovers that her mom has a tenant in the guest house. He's an artist, and there's something off about him. and she keeps finding handwritten notes in her father's handwriting around the house, so it's obviously creepy and spooky, and I just love the setup of that one. And I have read one book by Sarah Gailey. It was River of Teeth. That was many years ago, but I did remember enjoying that one, and I've been wanting to read more by them. And I just love horror this time of year, and this is a great pink cover. The house is dripping with blood. Looks like a good time to me. Speaking of blood, the next one is Young Blood by Sasha Lawrence, and this just looks like a campy, fun vampire story. It is following a group of queer vampires at an all-vampire boarding school. I guess there's some romance and some drama, and just looks like fun. I think in this world, humans have been infected with a virus that is fatal to vampires, so vampires can't drink their blood anymore, so they have to drink this synthetic blood. So I don't know, sounds fun. This cover is great, and just looks like a good campy time to me. And then last for July 19th, we have a thriller by an author I've been wanting to read from for a long time. So this is Things We Do in the Dark by Jennifer Hillier, and in this, Paris is our main character, and she is arrested when she's found covered in her husband's blood, and he is dead in the bathtub. And he happened to be a celebrity, so this is getting a lot of media attention, which is bad for Paris because she's afraid somebody will recognize her and the secrets of her past will be brought to light. And then it also follows Ruby, who is just getting out of prison after 25 years and recognizes Paris and maybe wants to bring her dark secrets to light. So that could be really interesting. I hope it's twisty and turny and not predictable, but we will see. I think it's been getting mixed reviews, but I have heard great things about this author in general, so I'm still open to trying it. And if you have read it, let me know what you thought, because I think a lot of people got early review copies of that one. Okay, the final day, July 26th, but I have quite a few books coming out on July 26th that I'm excited about, so let's dive into it. The first one is a sci-fi, and my sci-fi reading this year has been non-existent, and that makes me sad because I love sci-fi. So hopefully I will get to this one, and I love a good first contact with aliens, so this one intrigues me. It's A Half-Built Garden by Readathon and Reese. And in this one, we follow a main character who wakes up to a warning that a pollutant has come in. I think she lives in Chesapeake Bay, and she goes out to check what she thinks is going to be a false alarm, but realizes it is actually the first alien visitors to Earth, and they say that humanity needs to leave Earth to save themselves, and they will do it whether humans volunteer to do it, to leave or not. So that could be pretty epic, and I haven't read A First Contact with Aliens in a while. Then we have Love Times Infinity by Lane Clark, and this author, I wish I had grabbed those. This author actually sent me a postcard, a signed postcard, and a bookmark as in the mail as a way to market this book, which I thought was really cute. And this is a YA contemporary romance, and I think it's just following these two characters' first love, trying to get into college, working on scholarship applications and things like that. And our female main character has a complicated relationship with her mother, and her mom comes back into the picture and how she deals with that, and then also her romance. So this could be really, really, really sweet. Then we have another romance, an adult one this time, and a foodie romance, of course. This is For Better or For Worse by Erin LaRosa, and I am here for that punny title, and there's a punny tagline. It says, "Being bitter enemies never tasted so sweet." So I'm here for all this cheesiness. I don't care if it's the most cheesy romance in the world. I'm excited about it. So it's just a romance between these co-hosts of a cooking show that can't stand each other. So I will read it. I am so into that kind of thing, so I have high hopes for that one. Then we have another book that seems to be getting a lot of hype and attention already, and that is Violet Made of Thorns by Gina Chen. And all I know about this one is how it was pitched to me. And somebody told me that it is a fairy tale for cynics. So that sounds perfect for me. That is exactly what I want to read. And this has been getting a lot of hype. So I just want to go into it not knowing much, but I just wanted to put that on your radar as well. And I am excited about that. I love a good fairy tale. Next is one that is so outside of my comfort zone, but for some reason I'm intrigued by it. It is A Strange and Stubborn Endurance by Foz Meadows, and this is a fantasy romance, which is not normally my thing, but I am embracing that it might be, so we will see. And this is a male-male romance, and I read some early reviews. People are loving it, so I'm open to trying it. I am open to trying pretty much anything, so we will see what I think of that one. And honestly, the cover is just so good, so we will see. Next up is a Rapunzel retelling, and it is the Book of Gothel by Mary McMine, and it says, everyone knows the tale of Rapunzel in her tower, but do you know the story of the witch who put her there? So I love those kind of retellings where we get like the villain's origin story or their motives, and you kind of sympathize with them in a way. I love that kind of thing, and I know a lot of people are excited about this one, and I am definitely excited about it as well. Have you ever noticed that as these videos go on, my voice gets more and more hoarse? I am just not used to talking this much. You'd think I would be by now. I've been doing this for a while, but here we go. The last one. And this one I'm not so sure about, but I just thought it was kind of fun. This is Some of It Was Real by Fisher. And this is another romance, and it is between a psychic who doesn't quite believe in what she does and a cynical journalist who is kind of investigating her. So let's see what it says here. When Sylvie and Thomas collide, a game of cat and mouse ensues, but the secrets they're keeping from each other are nothing compared to the mysteries and lies they unearth about Sylvie's past, who is a psychic. Searching for the truth might destroy them both, but it's the only way to find out what's real. So who knows, but that sounds like it could be a good time to me, and I love to read romances in the summer, so I looked for a couple of romances to include on this list. So if you've read any of these, let me know what your thoughts on them were. Which ones are you most excited about? I know I missed a few that a lot of people are looking forward to. I think The It Girl by Ruth Ware comes out this month, but I've kind of given up on Ruth Ware. There are a few more, but there's so many books coming out all the time. I can't possibly talk about them all. And thanks again for your support. Comment down below. Maybe a stack of books if you've gotten this far. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye for now.